Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Orbital Takes. Today is June 8th. As always, I'm your host, Space with Poe, as joined by my co-host, Pat Stacy from Space Flight Hub. Pat, how you doing today?
Doing great, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing good. Look, you know how Jordan played in that NBA Finals with the flu that one time, and they called that the flu game?
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I live in New York City. I just found a cockroach in my kitchen. I am freaking out right now. I've never found a cockroach. I've been living here for 5 years. I walk downstairs. I'm actually thinking, I'm like, oh, my kitchen looks great today. Nice and beautiful countertops to the Windex. I see a cockroach sitting right up top there next to the sink. I literally had a panic attack.
Oh my God. Do you have rat problems
No. My friend actually just said that. They were like, hey, at least it wasn't a rat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am trying to think of it like that. But my heart rate is out of control. And I figured, you know what, when better to hop on a podcast and talk about space when I'm just like freaking out, right? So this is always going to be known as the Roach game. All right.
The Roach episode.
This is where Spo battled through his adversity with the cockroach. Anyway, all right. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. We got a lot of big news to talk about. Clearly, the biggest news of the week is that NASA selected new spacesuits for the future, for the Artemis program, for the International Space Station. So the awardees went to Axiom Space and Collins Aerospace. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how this whole process went down, Pat?
Yes. So we've used the same spacesuits on the International Space Station, since the shuttle days. And before then, there was only really one other major spacesuit. I shouldn't say one, but there was a limited number of spacesuit manufacturers, right? And so you have the ones from Mercury and Gemini and Apollo, and then you get into the shuttle days where they were doing EVAs, and they built this extravehicular mobility unit, the EMU. That's what is still currently used on the International Space Station. Some of these parts are more than 40 years old. So, when we go back to the moon, we can't just be using the ILC Dover A7B or whatever that spacesuit was called back in the day. So, you see the astronauts, having trouble moving around on the moon, and NASA said, hey, we can't do that again. We have to develop some new ones. As it turns out, they have been developing these for the last 10, 12 years and not getting anywhere. So NASA figured, hey, what has worked for us is reaching out to the commercial industry, right? First the commercial cargo program, then the commercial crew program, went out the commercial space suit program. So that's where they put out a call for ideas and for proposals for basically NASA's going to be helping these companies develop these suits, but they're going to be essentially renting these suits, and the companies will actually own these suits, right? So they'll be sent up. I'm just going to use the orbital reef for an example, the Blue Origin thing.
Yep.
So Blue Origin more than likely won't have its own spacesuit, so it's going to outsource that to either Collins or to Axiom, more than likely to Axiom, since they're already kind of working with them on an orbital reef, right? But NASA is essentially buying a spacesuit service now, which we've seen is successful, like I said, with commercial cargo and commercial crew, and there's no reason to think why it won't work for this. So I didn't see that they actually said, Collins is going to get this much and Axiom is going to get this much, but the whole project was worth like what, 3.7 billion or something like that.
Yeah, it's up there. I mean,
I might have my numbers wrong there.
Yeah, and it's an emerging space economy, and this is great, right? They're outsourcing it, and other space companies are going to be able to buy these suits in the future too, which I thought was really cool. It's not just like NASA using them, which is exciting. And think about this: so we haven't had new spacesuits for almost 50 years now, right? One of the notes I took down, out of 250 spacewalks on the International Space Station, 169 of them have been with the existing spacesuit they have now. It's not only boring, it honestly looks like a bitch to get in and out of. If you ever watch like one of these live streams where they're, prepping the spacesuits, it takes like 4 or 5 people to get on and off. And it just seems like such a hassle when, we're living in 2022. We should have a spacesuit that, in my opinion, is like way more sleeker, way easier to put on and more fitted, right?
Yeah. What was it? 2 years ago, it was the first all-female spacewalk, and they literally didn't have the parts to be able to have both of them fit. They were too big. And so that is just another thing. I think they said that these spacesuits can fit from the 5% female all the way up to the 95th percentile male.
Mhm.
So that's a ton of different sizes and different body styles that can be accommodated here.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be kind of like modular stuff where, hey, we have all these different size torsos and all these different size sleeves and hands and legs and whatnot, and it'll just kind of all fit together.
Yeah, I love that. And also think about it this way, guys, right? So it's going to be two predominantly different suits, because you're going to have one suit for landing on the moon and, different planetary bodies where you're going to need a different type of suit, right? So you're going to have more emphasis on being able to walk around in different types of gravity, as opposed to on the International Space Station where you're floating in microgravity. You do the predominant lifting with your hands, almost lighter, right? So I do think it's cool how we're going to see the differences between these two suits. I'm really excited to see what they do there.
Yeah, one of the things that the astronauts on the space station, when they do their spacewalks, they always say, how tired and they are afterward, because the suit has a, for lack of a better term, a default position, right? And so they're constantly, if the default position is like this, they're constantly having to work, against it, or this way and work against it that way, and it snaps right back to where it was. So, by building in more, hinges and points of flexion and inflection and things like that, hopefully it'll make it easier when these guys and gals are on the moon.
Yeah. And so I watched the entire, I think it was like an hour and 20-minute press conference of the spacesuit drop. So you guys didn't need to. Basically, the highlight of it, for me at least, was when one of the Axiom directors over there actually said he was in the suit this morning, or that morning, right? So that means that they're working on it. They have been working on it. We're not just starting from scratch. And I get a lot of confidence from that, thinking about just what we've done in the past year or so, or even before that, right? So I think it's great that, they have a suit, something's in the works right now. We don't know specifically what it is. And another highlight of the press conference is when they said one of the biggest issues they have with a planetary suit on the moon is dust. And I was like, wow, we have a dust problem here on Earth too, right? I just cleaned my TV with some Windex and I couldn't stop sneezing from that. And it's funny that is one of the biggest concerns they have, in the difference between a spacesuit that's going to be able to be outside the ISS and on the moon, pretty much dust. We got a dust problem.
The lunar dust, the lunar regolith, is so gnarly because here on Earth we have processes that erode dust. I'm talking on the microscopic crystallization level. We have air and water and wind and all the stuff that they in naturally occurring in nature. They have these sharp edges, but then this weathering rounds it down. On the moon there is nothing like that. So all of these sharp edged little pieces of dust of lunar regolith get into joints and stuff, and they mess shit up. There's countless stories about the Apollo astronauts who landed on the moon. This dust got into the joints of their spacesuits, and they weren't able to, or they had trouble making good connections, good solid airlock connections there. So this is a problem where we've known this is going to be something that we have to solve for. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this translates in the future to Mars, where dust is literally in the air everywhere. So this is a good kind of step in that direction.
Let me ask you this. Obviously, we have a branding issue when it comes to space suits right now, right? In your mind, what colorway or what design would you want for the Artemis spacesuits to really get the word out about, spacesuit?
One thing that I don't want is this god awful design that was unveiled a couple years ago when Space Policy Directive 1 was handed down by the Trump administration. It looks like, the Trump campaign sign. That's the color scheme, right? It's got red and blue, and it's I don't know. It's god awful. Yeah. I love the iconic white Apollo era, but that gets dirty very easily, right? Yeah. As soon as they walk around, they're covered in dust there. I don't know if there's you also want a white suit on the moon to dissipate heat. You don't want anything. If you've ever seen For All Mankind, granted this is a fictional show, but they when the Marines bring guns up to the moon, they paint them all white because otherwise they would melt through their suits, because it's a direct from the sun hitting that a black surface directly is going to heat that thing up. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What's your favorite design?
That's a great point. For me, I'm kind of thinking either like a color rush uniform, something like the NFL does, you know, where like they actually have more viewers when they decide to match colors. Like for color rush, if you guys don't watch football, it's basically it's one color on the top, a solid color on the top, and a solid color on the bottom. And I thought that was a really interesting way to think about it. Also, what about some type of color like you know how in karate you get different belts for the higher rank you get? What if we had different space suits for different ranks in space, right? So like time spent in space, you get like a black suit with like a gold trim or something like that, really to just get more people involved and like understand like who's who when it comes to EVA suits. Because in the future, there's going to be so many people walking around on the moon doing EVAs on their own spaceships. Like how are we going to be able to tell who's more qualified, right? Here's how you tell: a color-coded system where the space-time is equivalent to, you know, whatever color you get. How about that?
Yeah. That's a great idea. They kind of do that to an extent already. I think it was Apollo 13 was going to be the first mission with this. It was called the Commander's Stripe. And what they realized in Apollo 11 and Apollo 12 is all the photos, they can't tell who's who because the spacesuits are exactly the same. And so starting with Apollo 13, even though that never got to land, obviously, they just had a red stripe like on the legs and on the arms and on the helmets. So they could say, oh, that's the commander and the other one is the other one, right? The lunar module pilot. So since then, there's been several iterations of that. You can see when the space shuttle days, when they had several guys out there, they'd have one with, you know, it looked almost checkered. One had diagonal stripes. So they kind of do that already, but I love the different colors.
Yeah,
that's different colors. Like, hey, like, you know, I'm a rookie. My spacesuit's pink. You know, that's I have to earn my next color.
Yeah, your stripes, guys. And when Pat's talking shit about the 2019 spacesuit reveals, that was also when the girl in the spacesuit was doing the thing with her hands like this. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. To show the mobility.
Yeah, thank God those spacesuits died, because I remember seeing those and I was like, I am not looking forward to those at all. It's just like they literally almost look worse than what we have now. What's the point of doing that?
Yeah, for sure.
What is a spacesuit design that we have previously used besides the one that you said that you think would be like on the top of the food chain there?
I don't think there's been that many that we can choose from. You know, you go to science fiction and The Martian, the Mark Watney suit that's almost like a neoprene like scuba suit looking thing. Ideally, that's what you have, right? And that's SpaceX suits are kind of like that now, but you know, when you are pressurized on the moon, I don't know if something like that would really work. Because it's so thin. You know, you have to have some pressure environment there. That's the coolest one to me is in The Martian. It's because he's basically, you know, walking or running around in yoga pants is what it looks like.
I love that. Yeah. And the movie's like too. But how are we not talking about the iconic Mercury 7 suits? How could you not even mention that, Pat?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
guys like
the Flash Gordon suits.
Flash Gordon. You had guys like John Glenn, Al Shepard, Gus Grissom. It's like, to me, that is the most iconic spacesuit of all time. You know, we start with those. I think we should go back to the Mercury 7 spacesuits. Why not? That little tinfoil look. Let's go.
Imagine Jared Isaacman climbing on board Starship, which is stainless steel, wearing a stainless steel looking suit. You know, that would be badass.
And it'd pay homage to the past.
Yes.
Sometimes you got
tying the future back to the past. I love it.
Sometimes you got to go back to move forward. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, so I'm really excited about these spacesuits. They said they should be done by 2025 for like a demonstration. Like I said, they're going to continue to certify them along the way. So it's not like they're just going to, you know, have all this time and then we're just going to have a moment where they're going to be like, oh, no, this doesn't work. They're certifying them as they go because they understand how important this is. And guess what? Axiom and Collins, the pressure is fucking on. All right. You guys want a ball? Let's go. Let's see it. The ball's in your court. Let's see what you guys do. I mean, this is the next generation spacesuit that we will be landing humans on the moon, you know, with, and it is exciting because that iconic video of like, you know, one small step for man, one giant step for mankind, or leap for mankind. This is it. Who's ever like the next woman and first African-American are going to be wearing these suits that we're prepping up right now. It's crazy.
Yep. One thing that we haven't mentioned is what is SpaceX going to be doing? You know, they're with the Polaris program. One of the things is developing an EVA suit. because up to this point, the Dragon has not been open to the vacuum environment of space, right? It's always just gone up and gone straight to the space station, or like in Inspiration 4, they just opened the McDonald's Play Place window, but they never went outside. So that'll be interesting. I don't see SpaceX getting one of these, or I'm sorry, using one of these too. I think they're going to develop their own, because that's just what SpaceX does. Is they're like, no, we're going to go our own way, which obviously has worked for them.
I totally agree. And their spacesuits already, they don't have EVA suits right now, but the ones that they use in the Crew Dragon are fire.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're the best looking ones currently.
They have like vents in them. They have a cooling system. They have a computer built into the leg, I'm pretty sure, right? Like I always see there's like a computer in their leg and monitors every aspect of their body. I mean, for some reason, Pat, why are we not concerned about SpaceX? I mean, right? Like, do you have any doubt that SpaceX is going to debut like a 10 times more badass suit the second that NASA drops their new one? Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that that's what they're going to do, because the design and aesthetics and beauty play into what SpaceX does.
Massive. And I also wanted to say, I had this in my notes, LED or LED trims. Simple as that. You put lights on your suit somewhere, you automatically almost win like the visual game there, right? Like, who wouldn't want some LED lights on like the back of their suit? Like, that'd be fire.
You gotta watch The Expanse, man. They have have the kind of what I'm talking about, like a neoprene kind of looking suit that harkens back to like the Martian kind of look. They have those with LED trims on them. Granted, that's fiction, obviously, but you gotta watch The Expanse, man.
Yeah. No, everybody's been saying that a million times, but so that's it for the spacesuit news this week. Massive news. Really excited about that.
And we're gonna need those to land on the moon, right? That's the rocket could be ready all at once, but if we got nothing to walk around on the moon on, then there's no point in going.
Yeah, we're venturing out into a new phase of space exploration. There's going to be more humans than ever out in space, and you're going to be seeing, I would say, maybe not that many people wear the NASA suits at first, but eventually I think they're going to get a lot of customers down the line. I mean, hell, the Spaceflight Hub and Space Sport, we might have our own rocket company one day. We're most likely, we're going to have a couple options. You either buy from SpaceX or you buy from NASA, which would be exciting. But speaking of rockets here, moving along. So U.S. rocket propulsion company Ursa Major announced big news. They have a new engine that's going to displace the now unavailable Russian-made propulsion sources, which is really big, obviously, given like the world news and everything right now. What are your thoughts on the Arroway, the 200,000-pound thrust liquid oxygen and methane stage combustion engine? What are your thoughts on that?
This is big because the Russian RD-180 and 181 were sort of kind of banned by Congress a few years ago because they realized that we're way too reliant on Russia for these engines. One of the major rocket companies uses RD-180 engines that they had already procured before this ban, and so it's like, what's going to come after that? So this is big. I'm I'm not a rocket scientist, and neither are you, so I don't know that discussing the ins and outs of what this specifically does does us much good. But what it does is just further FU to Russia, right? That we don't need Roscosmos, that we have American companies that are able to fill in the gaps here, and that's really what this is all about. So this is huge for not relying on Russia anymore.
Nailed it, Pat. That is exactly what I was going to say. We don't need their engine. We don't need their rockets anymore. And guys, we did need them for almost 10 plus years. And this is a really big step. And now here's a question for you. So now that this Arroway, it's called, now that this Arroway engine is actually available for order right now, they said slated for initial hot fire testing in 2023 and delivery in 2025. Are you all in on Ursa Major?
Not yet. I have to see the static fire first, because you have Raptor 2.0. You have the BE4 from Blue Origin that we've seen some recent videos testing. You have the RS-25, that Aerojet Rocketdyne provides for SLS. You have several in the stable already. So that's all well and good. This 3D, or this rocket is partially 3D printed, which Relativity Space has shown can work. But there's obviously problems that come with 3D printing something that has to be worked out. So I'm cautiously all in, but I'm not all in yet.
Not all in yet. Also on this topic that I wanted to say, other than I love this because it's like a big middle finger to who's that guy Who's the
Dmitry
head of-
Rogozin.
Dmitry Rogozin, who talks all that shit on Twitter. I mean, he literally won't shut up. And I love this because I just want to I want to get this on the front page of a news article and just deliver it to his house and just be like, we don't need you, buddy. I mean, he talks so much smack. It makes me mad, even though I probably shouldn't be. But like, I want to get him this news somehow. How can we tweet this at him right now or what?
Yeah. We'll tweet out from Orbital Takes and he'll be like, oh man, Orbital Takes, you're so right.
Yeah, come on, man,
Yeah.
Dimitri.
What was I thinking? Yeah, the American broomstick and the trampoline and all that stuff that he's talked about in the past. Like, we're just proving him wrong.
See ya. One day, I can almost guarantee one day Russia will not be on the International Space Station any longer. And we'll see when that happens. All right. And moving on, one of the last topics of the day, NASA rolled out the Space Launch System again.
I am so in on the Artemis program. Just think, I was thinking about this today. There is an Apollo program-esque type of program going on right now, sitting on the launch pad, ready to go to the moon.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. That is so inspiring. It's so surreal. You know, we've been talking about this thing for so long and it hasn't come without its problems. That's obvious. I'm confident that they have most of them worked out, but maybe not all, but that's what these test flights are for. As long as it doesn't blow up on the pad, as long as it reaches orbit, I think it's somewhat of a successful test flight. This is an integrated system from multiple vendors that they're trying to come together and do perfectly on the first round. So, SpaceX blows up, or they used to blow up their Falcon 1s and Falcon 9s as they were testing them all the time, and they would learn from that and move on. We can't do that with SLS because there's one of them right now, which we can argue if that's the best approach to take for your rocket or not. But regardless, this is the US government's rocket, and it has to go perfectly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just stoked. Like to see Artemis 1 back out on the launch pad. I'm excited.
Nail biting city. I mean, when Artemis 1 is launched, there is so much on the line. I can't think of another launch besides like when Bob and Doug went up there and we were like kind of all watching the demo one, like, there's actual humans on there now. Like, let's hope it goes well. If Artemis 1 blows up, we are screwed, like so screwed. Can't that set back our like missions to the moon by like almost 10 years if Artemis 1 blows up? Or would you say less?
Probably less, but because Artemis 2 is currently being built right now, like the core stage is built or almost to completion, I think. So maybe not quite 10 years, but yeah, it'd be a huge step back because this is already, a decade and billions of dollars behind schedule. So I don't think it's going to, because there's a lot of smart people that are working on it and they know it has to go right the first time. But yeah, if it did, that'd be devastating. But let's not think that way. Let's think positive thoughts.
So let me get your orbital take here. In the next 5 years, Artemis launches over 5 times.
In the next 5 years?
5 years, 5 launches, under or over?
I'm going to say under because, and that's only because the cadence of launches at the most they could do 1 a year. And they're not ready to do Artemis 2 and Artemis 3 is the landing, the moon landing. That's the first crewed moon landing. So even if everything goes perfectly, let's say Starship isn't ready yet. Well, there's not a whole lot point in launching Artemis 3 if the lander isn't ready to land on the moon. So I'll say less, but not because I'm talking shit on SLS, just because of the logistics. Even if they were at full capacity and if things were working perfectly, they still could only launch once a year.
I love that. I'll tell you what, I have a good feeling about this. I don't know why. I don't know why I should. They've literally let us down for the past 5 to 10 years, but I have a good feeling about this. I'm excited about watching Artemis 1. It's coming up soon, right? Do you have a date on that? So
I believe the next wet dress is scheduled for June 19th. I think. And then from there, I think they're targeting an August launch window, but if there are issues that are discovered during the wet dress, that could be easily pushed back. But yeah, I think June 19th or June 17th or something like that is the wet dress.
Love that. Well, we will be there, boots on the ground. I can confirm that at one of those launches, at least one of us will be there, and we'll bring you guys to the heat of the action. And there you have it. That's Orbital Takes for this week. Once again, thank you guys for stopping by and talking some space with us. We've officially made it through the cockroach episode. There you have it. You know,
Thank God.
I'm gonna go clean my fucking kitchen and cry myself to sleep. What do you got? You got anything, Pat?
No, man, just looking forward to hearing more about Artemis I next week, hopefully. And we got the capstone launch as well. I just did a post about that on Spaceflight Hub, so be sure to check that out. Capstone is going to be big for the Artemis program. It's looking at the cislunar environment around the near rectilinear halo orbit, which is an orbit that Artemis and the Gateway will use. It's a kind of gravitationally stable orbit, and it allows constant communication back to Earth, and one that hasn't ever been utilized yet. So Capstone is like a little CubeSat mission that's going to go explore that. So that launches next week, and that should be pretty cool as well. But yeah, check that out. I'm at Spaceflight Hub, and I'm good, Spo, at Astra.
Love it, love it. And you know, I actually saw one of those capstone things in the middle of Times Square when they had like this space thing going on. Anyway,
That's cool.
Follow us on all social media channels. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.